The White House has labeled the man who was killed in Minnesota as a domestic terrorist. Is that something you agree with? And have you seen any evidence to back up that claim?
When you perpetuate violence against a government because of ideological reasons and for reasons to resist and perpetuate violence, that is the definition of domestic terrorism. This individual who came with weapons and ammunition to stop a law enforcement operation of federal law enforcement officers committed an act of domestic terrorism. That's the facts.
Welcome back, Patriots. Buckle up. We're diving headfirst into a transcript that's got more twists and turns than a California ballot measure. Marjorie Taylor Greene dropping truth bombs about the real forces at play. And trust me, you're going to want to hear this. We're cutting through the noise, exposing the flawed arguments, and getting to the heart of what's really going on in our state and our nation. Let's roll.
The Trump administration is absolutely hemorrhaging support as they continue to make absolutely vile and untrue comments and statements to justify the murder of, or I should say the killing of Alex Preti. Now, Alex Preti was an observer who was filming Border Patrol agents in Minneapolis as they approached him, pushed a woman next to him to the ground, and then proceeded to disarm him and shoot him to death. Now, he was in legal possession of a firearm. He had a permit to carry a concealed weapon. He never brandished the weapon. He never threatened anyone with it. So everything you just heard there from Kristi Noem was meant to manufacture consent for the public execution of an American citizen who never brandished a gun. And according to former Trump devotee Marjorie Greene, this all was meant to push Americans into a civil war. Cenk, your 2 cents.
Whoa. Hold your horses there. Domestic terrorist? That's a pretty heavy label to just slap on someone who dares to resist what they perceived as an unjust or heavy-handed government operation. Folks, this isn't some clear-cut case of ISIS operative. This is an American citizen who, by many accounts, was legally armed and observing. The government loves to expand the definition of terrorism to include anyone that challenges their authority. It's a classic move. Demonize dissent, then use the demonization to justify even more power. Remember when protesting mask mandates was domestic extremism? It's a slippery slope, folks. If merely resisting a law enforcement operation with weapons, even legally owned ones, is now domestic terrorism, then every citizen with a firearm who stands up to perceived tyranny could be next. That's not the facts. That's a narrative designed to scare you into submission. It's about control, plain and simple. It sets a dangerous precedent for every one of us who believes in individual liberty and the right to push back against outreach. It's too far.
Here we go again. Marjorie Taylor Greene coming out largely on our side.
Spitting bars.
It's amazing. Wait till you see her quotes on it. And also we're going to share the polling with you guys. Not looking good for Trump. That's why he's in the middle of a backpedal as we speak.
So in a lengthy statement on X this morning, former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was at one time a supporter of Trump but no longer, reiterated her support for enforcing our immigration laws. And it's true, you can be in favor of enforcing our immigration laws while simultaneously criticizing the Trump administration for how they have gone about it. And that's what she did here. She pleaded with Trump supporters to open their eyes, saying that legally carrying a firearm is not the same as brandishing a firearm. I support Americans' First and Fourth Amendment rights. There is nothing wrong with legally, peacefully protesting and videoing, meaning videoing ICE agents or Border Patrol agents or law enforcement. You're allowed to do that. It is your right as an American. Now, Greene also flipped the script and urged Republicans to question what they would do if this happened to the right under Biden. Imagine if one of our MAGA independent journalists or even just a MAGA supporter stood in the street outside a J6er's house while Biden's FBI carried out a law enforcement operation, home invasion, and arrest. The Biden's FBI goes to the MAGA guy videoing it all and shoves a woman with him to the ground and sprays them with bear spray, then throws the MAGA guy to the ground as MAGA guy was trying to help the woman off the ground. Then Biden's FBI beats MAGA guy on the ground, disarms MAGA guy, and then shoots him dead. What would have been our reaction? And I think we know what their reaction would be. They would be furious, just as any sane person who saw the videos of the Alex Preti shooting are furious. Anyone who's actually principled and moral would look at that and be furious about it. And I'm really happy that Marjorie Taylor Greene is willing to call this out.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much I'm encouraged by here. So first, the true right, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, et cetera, who are being principled conservatives, came out and agreed on Epstein files. Now you think, what do you mean? The right wing was in favor of releasing the Epstein files, arguably even more than the left wing. So that's just being consistent. Exactly, because in the past, but both sides would flip their positions completely the minute they got into power, right? So in Trump's first term, whenever Trump said something, it said jump, they'd say how high. And it didn't matter how absurd it was, almost all the right wing would immediately copy what he was saying, even if they thought it was totally wrong. But in the case of the Epstein files, he's like, okay, now we bury them, right? Everybody change your positions. And they're like, wait, what? No, I'm not gonna change my position. And that was a really important moment in American history, because that was when the break began. Then breaks started happening all over the place. And they're not breaking against their policies. They're breaking against a so-called leader who's actually betraying their policies.
Right.
So like First Amendment's another great example. Trump ran on freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, right? And then he turns around and goes, okay, now everybody complaining about Israel, shut up. Otherwise I'll have you arrested, deported, denaturalized, all these different things. And again, the right wing that are the true right are like, wait, we were in favor of freedom of speech. I could remember it. It was like only like 2 days ago, right?
Yeah.
And so they're sticking with that. Now on this one, now we're at government tyranny. And they're like, wait a minute, the government's shooting you just because you have a gun?
A legal weapon, yeah.
A legal weapon? That's government tyranny. Guys in masks, et cetera, this is getting sketchy. And then finally, for now, I love that she's doing shoe on the other foot. I mean, how many times have I done shoe on the other foot? And guys, the reason why that's so important is because it breaks the cycle of hatred. It creates a tiny bit of empathy. So you can go, oh, right. Wait a minute, if it was a Biden government shooting a legal gun owner who was a right-winger protesting COVID, I'd be irate, I'd be super mad. By the way, we also do that on the other side. We tell Democrats, now imagine if Trump's babbling and blah, and we defeated Medicare, although he might brag about that. We'd be like, hey, that guy looks senile, right?
I mean,
and
that does
Biden looks
happen, though.
senile.
Okay, so this is where things get tricky. And for me, it gets very infuriating. We all agree that old mainstream media was a propaganda machine, an assembly line of talking cameras, as they put it. They spoon-fed us whatever narrative served the establishment. But to then pivot and say now there's 100 bubbles and that somehow makes it all better, that's a classic misdirection. Sure, there are more sources, but how many are truly independent, truly challenging the core narratives? Many of these new bubbles are just echo chambers for different factions of the same overall power structure, or they're so niche they don't break through anything. The algorithms, as she rightfully points out, actively prevent that cross-pollination of ideas. The real fight isn't about having more bubbles. It's about breaking out of all bubbles and demanding verifiable truth. We're not looking for more flavors of Kool-Aid. We're looking for pure, unadulterated water. That's it. The idea that more bubbles automatically equate to more truth, rather than just more tailored deception, is a complete fallacy. It's still about who controls the narrative, regardless of the rapper.
Yeah, that does happen.
Right?
I mean, look, that's actually a really great example, right? You see a lot of people on the left, broad left, I'm not saying leftist, but just Democratic voters who provided cover for Biden when he clearly was lying to the American people about his the state of his health, let's just put it that way. But then at the same time, they attack Trump over his senile behavior.
Right.
And it's like, you gotta be consistent on this, because at the end of the day, what matters is whether or not the American people in general, regardless of where they are on the political spectrum, are actually being served by our public servants? Are
Yeah.
they actually doing what's right for the American people, regardless of what their political identity happens to be?
Yeah, one more really important thing about that, guys. So if you were a Democrat who couldn't see that Biden had become, some form of dementia, senility, etc., I get why, because that's all you heard from your media sources. So it's really hard to see straight. So if you were in that camp, now we were not in that camp, but that's okay. That's okay. If you were in that camp, I'm asking you to realize why sometimes people on the right have a similar problem where you go, well, they sound crazy because their media sources are telling them things that are demonstrably wrong, but they don't know that. Just like you couldn't tell that Biden was losing it, that he was too old, they can't tell all these different things that we see clearly. So that's why online media is making an enormous difference. Before Fox News and MSNBC were assembly lines of talking points.
You drive me crazy with this point because, Cenk, I get it. Mainstream media, they've served as gatekeepers and they all were in line with the same BS messaging. I get that argument, but like part of the problem right now is algorithms keep us in our bubbles, right? So right-wing media watchers, they're in a right-wing bubble, left-wing media people, or people who watch left-wing media, they're in a bubble. You literally have to go out of your way, as I do, to make sure that you're getting a full picture. So as much as I love independent media, as much as I agree that it's overall a good thing that the internet has allowed the news industry to be flooded with different options for people, these tech algorithms are really not great for us.
So Anna, you're right about the algorithms, but the nuance here, and it's super important, is yes, but in the past there was only 2 bubbles. And the bubbles were also always meant to be 100% in opposition. Now there's hundreds of bubbles.
No,
and
there's still 2 bubbles.
No, there isn't. Yeah. No way. There's the Young Turks. There's Tucker Carlson. Wait a minute. There's Mark Levin. There's Joe Rogan. Just take those 4, but I can give you 40 more. We all say different things, and sometimes now Tucker and us are agreeing, right? But the guy who used to watch Mark Levin and Tucker on Fox News say relatively the same things. Now he's got to use his mind and decide which bubble to go in.
Okay,
right?
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. So this is the really relevant part of what Marjorie Taylor Greene had to say, though, and I think she's making a good point here, and this is what I'm really worried about. Both sides need to take off their political blinders. You are all being incited into civil war, yet none of it solves any of the real problems that we all face, and tragically, people are dying.
Wow, that is crazy. Your opponents are not on your left or your right, they're above you is so true, and you're gonna see what we're talking about in a little bit. That, my friends, is a very profound truth spoken in this entire clip. Marjorie Taylor Greene is absolutely nailing it. They want us fighting each other, red versus blue, black versus white, straight versus gay. Because as long as we're squabbling amongst ourselves, we're not looking up. And up is where the real architects of our problems reside. The globalists, the unelected bureaucrats, the deep state, the corporate oligarchs who profit from division and chaos. They pull the strings, they fund the narratives, and they laugh all the way to the bank while we chew each other like crazy on social media. This isn't about Democrat or Republican anymore. It's about control versus freedom. It's about ordinary Americans against an entrenched, powerful elite. If we don't unite against them, the civil war they're etching won't be between us, but a unilateral assault by the powerful against the people. Wake up, America. The real enemy isn't your neighbor with a different bumper sticker. It's the people in the power. Plain and simple.
I mean, see, that's such a great example, right? Before, Fox News would have said, no, it's great, you shoot him in the head, etc., and that would have been the entire right-wing position. Now, we just showed you in back-to-back stories, in fact, 3 back-to-back, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, Tom Massey, let alone many, many others, but those 3, as usual, being the stalwarts, all saying the same thing I said, independently, not knowing their positions, they didn't know my position. And the same thing I said on Piers Morgan this morning, which is they're looking to divide you. Americans, stay together, stay consistent, and understand that your opponents are not on your left or your right, they're above you. Fight up.
So there you have it, folks. A stark reminder that the battle for truth and freedom isn't over. It's escalating. Don't fall for the manufactured divisions. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and most importantly, stay united against the real forces that seek to undermine our republic. So tell me, if you found this breakdown insightful, hit that like button, share this video with everyone you know, and subscribe for more unfiltered truth. Until next time, keep fighting the good fight.